part of the animals part. এখানে different types of animals you may classify it as the aquatic animals. এটা হতে পারে fish, jellyfish, sharks, whales, octopus, এগুলো তোমরা জানো, sea otters, crocodiles, crabs, dolphins, as well as the mussels and more, more. But so far WORMS এর মতে, হ্যাঁ, এখানে অ্যাপ্রক্সিমেটলি প্রায় 2,28,450, ঠিক আছে, মেরিন স্পিসিস এখন পর্যন্ত আইডেন্টিফাইড হয়েছে। সি, আমি যদি ইফ আই সে অ্যাবাউট দা সি সিনারিও যদি আমরা বলি, অনলি 2,28,400, হ্যাঁ, ফোর, কি বলে, 450 নাম্বার অফ মেরিন স্পিসিস, জাস্ট ইউ নো, আই নো, অ্যান্ড লিটারেচার নো, বাট লট অফ মোর দেন 2 মিলিয়ন অফ স্পিসিস ইয়েট আননোন, এখন পর্যন্ত আছে যেগুলো আমরা জানি না। সুতরাং এটা ভেরি বিগ ভাস্ট একটা এরিয়া। এটা হলো অ্যাকুয়াটিক অ্যানিমালস, ভেরি ভাস্ট এরিয়া। আমরা যদি সিম্পলি ক্লাসিফাই করি, যে আসলে আমরা যদি একটু দেখি, দেখো এখানে হ্যাভ এ লুক প্লিজ হিয়ার, অ্যাজ আই মেনশন আর্লিয়ার, 2 million more species we don't know about their bibliography, about their habitat, about their biology. We don't know about more than 2 million more. However, 130টার মতো ডেসক্রাইবড স্পিসিস রয়েছে যেগুলো মেরিন ম্যামালস আমরা বলি। 130 নাম্বার অফ মেরিন ম্যামালস লিভিং ইন দ্য আর্থ, আমরা জানি সেটা। এবং উই মে ক্লাসিফাই দিস ওয়ান ইনটু 3 ক্যাটেগরিজ। সিটাসিয়া, জানো সিটাসিয়া, দিস আর দ্য এক্সাম্পল অফ ডলফিন, হোয়ালস and porpoises. দেখো the top figures, these are the dolphins. See, you see here dolphin, whales, এই যে এগুলা দেখো। 2 নাম্বার হচ্ছে ইফ হইছে সেরিনিয়া, মানে এটাকে সেরিনিয়া অনেকে বলে, এটাকে আমরা বলি যে কাউ, সিকাউ, সিকাউ বলা হয়। অর্থাৎ সমুদ্র তলদেশে কিন্তু গরু আছে, হ্যাঁ, গরু আছে, এবং সেটাকে সিকাউ বলা হয়, হ্যাঁ, সেরেনিয়া বলা হয় এটাকে। দেখো এই যে সিকাউ, এবং সেখানেও তারা ঘাস খায়। সমুদ্র তলদেশে কিন্তু দে আর গ্রাজিং, তারা ঘাস খায়। সমুদ্র তলদেশে কিন্তু হিউজ গ্রাজিং ল্যান্ড রয়েছে, সেগুলাকে তারা আসতেছে। দেখো সেকেন্ড ওয়ান বিলো দা টপ, টপের নিচে যেটা আছে সেটা হলো তোমার সিকাও বলা হয়, হ্যাঁ। এবং আনাদার ইজ, লাস্ট ওয়ান ইজ কার্নিভোরা, কার্নিভোরস যেটাকে আমরা বলি। দেখো সিলস, সি লায়ন্স, এই যে রয়েছে, সেগুলো হলো কার্নিভোরস এনিমেল। এই যে সমুদ্রের যত এনিমেল আছে, সি এনিমেলস গুলাকে আমরা, হ্যাঁ, 3 ক্যাটাগরিতে আমরা ক্লাসিফাই করতে পারি। সেটা এখানে আমরা চেষ্টা করলাম আর কি, যে সিম্পলি আমরা এগুলাকে ব্যাখ্যা করার জন্য। ঠিক আছে, ভেরি সিম্পল ইনফরমেশন। এন্ড দেন নেক্সট যদি আমরা একটু চিন্তা করি, যে এখানে এই যে সিটাসিয়া সম্বন্ধে বিশদ আলোচনা করা হয়েছে, তাদের ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিক্স, তাদের বিভিন্ন ধরনের সাব অর্ডার্স, তাদের ফিজিওলজিক্যাল সাম প্রপার্টিস, এগুলো বিশদ আলোচনা আছে। ইফ ইউ আর কিন টু নো অ্যাবাউট দ্য সিটাসিয়া, সো ইউ মে স্টাডি দিস ওয়ান। ঠিক আছে, ইউ মে স্টাডি, যদি তুমি জানতে চাও আর কি, ইফ ইউ হ্যাভ এ টেন্ডেন্সি টু লার্ন মোর, ইউ ক্যান জাস্ট স্টাডি দিস স্লাইডস, নো প্রবলেম। এন্ড সিরেনিয়া তুমি জানতে পারো, এগুলা জাস্ট ফর ইউর সিম্পল ইনফরমেশন, এগুলা তোমরা নলেজ নিতে পারো। কার্নিভোরস, এগুলা তোমরা একটু পরে নিতে পারো আর কি, যে আসলে হোয়াট টাইপস অফ ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিক্স বিলংস টু ডিফারেন্ট মেরিন অ্যানিমালস, স্পেশালি কার্নিভোরস, আমরা এখানে ব্যাখ্যা করলাম। তারপরে সিরেনিয়া এবং হচ্ছে সিটাসিয়া, এগুলা তোমরা একটু জাস্ট সিম্পল ইনফরমেশন করবা। সো নাও কামস টু পপুলার অ্যাকুয়াটিক অ্যানিমাল, অর্থাৎ ইন দা ওয়ার্ল্ড হুইচ দি অ্যাকুয়াটিক অ্যানিমালস আর মোর পপুলার। বিশেষ করে বিভিন্ন যে একুরিয়ামে আছে, সেই একুরিয়ামে এই ধরনের অ্যানিমালস আমরা দেখেছি বিভিন্ন দেশে, এবং এগুলা হচ্ছে পপুলার অ্যাকুয়াটিক অ্যানিমাল। হ্যাভ এ সি হিয়ার, তোমরা এগুলা দেখো, লুক এট দ্য পিকচার প্লিজ। এগুলা তোমরা সব জানো, এভরি, এগুলা ওয়েল নান টু ইউ। পোলার বিয়ার, অর্কা, ওয়াল শার্ক, তারপরে হলো গ্রেট হোয়াইট শার্ক, তারপরে হলো তোমার সেইল ফিশ, সি টার্টল, ম্যান্টিস, সি হর্স, এরপরে দেখো কোরাল, সি লায়ন, অক্টোপাস, সিল, লবস্টার, ওয়ালরাস। এই যে ওয়ালরাসটা আছে, এটা হলো পৃথিবীতে সবচেয়ে বড় যে পাখা আছে, হ্যাঁ, ও মানে একুয়াটিক অ্যানিমালের মধ্যে ওয়ালরাস। এটা তোমাদের প্র্যাকটিক্যালে হয়তো এটা নিয়ে ডিটেলস পড়ানো হবে। সুতরাং এখানে সিম্পলি পপুলার একুয়াটিক অ্যানিমেল সম্বন্ধে আমরা জাস্ট আইডিয়া নিলাম আর কি। ওকে, এখন আসো হচ্ছে হাউ টু মেনটেন এ ফ্রেশ ওয়াটার অ্যাকুরিয়াম। সোজা কথা যদি আমি বলি, তাহলে ইউ আর এ ভেটেরিনারিয়ান। তোমার কাজ হচ্ছে জাস্ট মনিটরিং অ্যান্ড অবজারভেশন অ্যান্ড রিপোর্টিং। এটা হলো অ্যাজ এ ভেটেরিনারিয়ান এর কাজ। তুমি যে পানি পরিষ্কার করবা, তোমার ওই যে এভরিডে নিড টু ক্লিন এভরিথিং, এটা ইউর, ইট ইজ নট ইউর টাস্ক। এটা তোমার কোনো টাস্ক না। সিম্পলি তোমাকে জানতে হবে যে আসলে একুরিয়ামটা আসলে কিভাবে মেনটেন করে। আই মিন দ্যাট ইউ হ্যাভ টু পারফর্ম বাই ইউর কোঅর্ডিনেটরস, যারা থাকবে তোমার আন্ডার ইউর সুপারভিশন। তুমি জাস্ট তাদেরকে মনিটরিং করবা, হোয়াট সে শুড ডু, কিভাবে সে করবে, এবং তাকে কিছু গাইডলাইন্স দিবা। এটাই হলো তোমার কাজ। এবং বর্তমান বাজারে আহ, একটা অ্যাভেলেবেল কিট পাওয়া যায়, অর্থাৎ রেডিমেড কিট পাওয়া যায় এভরিহোয়ার, ইট ইজ অ্যাভেলেবেল ফর একুরিয়াম। অর্থাৎ একটা একুরিয়ামের পানি, সেটা তুমি কিভাবে ক্লিন করবা, এখানে তোমার ডেইলি কিছু ওয়ার্ক থাকে, উইকলি কিছু ওয়ার্কস থাকে, এবং মান্থলি কিছু ওয়ার্কস থাকে। সুতরাং এই স্লাইডের লেটার পার্টে আই উইল ডিসকাস অ্যাবাউট দ্য হোয়াট আর দ্য অ্যাক্টিভিটিস ইউ হ্যাভ টু বি পারফর্ম each and every day. I mean, it's every day, weekly, or monthly. What the works, what's the performance তোমাকে পারফর্ম করতে হবে, সেটা তোমাদেরকে সিম্পলি জানতে হবে। হাউএভার অ্যাজ আই মেনশন, যে একটা অ্যাকুয়ারিয়ামে যে পানি থাকে, ওই পানির কোয়ালিটি কেমন হবে সেটা আমরা কিট দিয়ে আমরা আইডেন্টিফাই করতে পারি। জাস্ট সিম্পল ডিপিং এ কিট and then you will see the data. Every data will be recorded on the screen of the kit পাওয়া, and then you will take the action if any default is, if any problems that belongs to raise, যদি সেটা হয় তাহলে তুমি পারফর্ম করে ফেলবা। সো সিম্পল ইনফরমেশন এখানে দেওয়া আছে যে আসলে রেগুলারলি আমাদের কি করা উচিত, হোয়াট শুড ডু রেগুলারলি। এন্ড দেন আমরা যদি প্রথমে বলি যে ইউ শুড নেভার just you should never put off all the water from the aquarium. Okay, you aquarium, maybe it is very small size aquarium, or mini size, or medium size, or large size. Different categories aquarium is available in the market. But in abroad, or if it is the fancy aquarium, it will be very large in size. So here you have to deal with a lot of water. সুতরাং এটা varies country to countries, it varies according to your purpose, everything. এটা হতে পারে ইন হাউস, স্মল হাউসের জন্য মিনি, জাস্ট লাইক সে as I mentioned about the জোর ক্লাসিফিকেশন, যেটা সিম্পল হতে পারে, মিনি হতে পারে, এটা মিডিয়াম হতে পারে, এন্ড এটা লার্জ হতে পারে সে। সুতরাং তোমাকে জানতে হবে যে নেভার নেভার এমটি দা অ্যাকুরিয়াম ওয়াটার, নেভার এমটি, জাস্ট ম্যাক্সিমাম 15 to 20% অফ দ্য অ্যাকুরিয়াম ওয়াটার এভরি 1 to 2 weeks। অর্থাৎ তোমাকে নট মোর দ্যান 25% ওয়াটার ইউ শুড নেভার বি ব্ল্যাঙ্কড। এটা তুমি করতে পারো না, এটা জাস্ট সিম্পল সিম্পল ইনফরমেশন। জাস্ট পুট ইট ইন ইউর মাইন্ড সিম্পলি। পরের একুরিয়াম মেনটেনেন্স শিডিউল আমাদের রয়েছে, অর্থাৎ সেক্ষেত্রে ডেইলি একুরিয়াম মেনটেনেন্স you have to perform, weekly or semi-weekly aquarium maintenance. Just read it out for your knowledge only. Okay, and monthly also, as I mentioned. So this is the kit. You will see this is a simple kit that, and I mentioned earlier about the kit details. So just if you use this type of kits, everywhere it is market, everywhere you will see in the market. Whatever এই কিট দিয়ে তুমি যদি ইউজ করো, তাহলে আমাদের মূল কম্পোনেন্ট, I mean that we have to give more emphasis some parameters regards to the aquarium water. Say example, number one, pH is very important. Number one, pH is very important. And ammonia, nitrate and nitrite, and phosphate. So these are the parameters. If you use this type of kit, and you will get all the informations, recorded information just on your screen, you will see. So আমরা যদি এটা ইউজ করে পারি, তাহলে সেক্ষেত্রে আমার স্ট্যান্ডার্ড ভ্যালু আমরা এখন জানবো লেটার স্লাইডে। হোয়াট আর দ্য স্ট্যান্ডার্ড ভ্যালু অফ দ্য পিএইচ অফ অ্যাকুরিয়াম, what are the standard value of the ammonia, nitrate, nitrate, as well as the phosphate. আমরা জানবো। সি যদি আমরা বলি যে, যদি আমরা জানতে চাই যে what should about the pH of the aquarium? Simply 6.8 to 7.8. So what should do if you see the pH level is below 6.8, or what should do if you see or if you observe the pH below more than 8? What should do? So I say we have some components, or we have some materials that if you should, or if you incorporate this type of components, and then the water will be alkaline. Or sometimes we have some components, if you add this or if you incorporate this type of components into the water, that will be the more acidic, say, etc etc, এগুলা very simple information, এগুলা তোমরা জানবা। অর্থাৎ আমরা সেই pH টাকে we can increase the pH, or we also we also we can also reduce the pH level। আমরা জানি এগুলা বিভিন্ন ধরনের তোমার হচ্ছে কোরাল আছে, বিভিন্ন ধরনের গ্রেভেল আছে, বিভিন্ন ধরনের তোমার হচ্ছে তোমরা জানো কিনা এই যে বিভিন্ন ধরনের জাস্ট লাইক মেটালিক কিছু ইয়ে আছে, সেগুলা দিলে পিএইচ বাড়ে কমে, এগুলা অ্যাভেলেবেল আছে, এগুলা তোমরা জেনে নিতে পারো। হোয়াট এভার, এখানে আমরা যদি নাইট্রেট আর নাইট্রেট চিন্তা করি, তাহলে তোমার 0.44 থাকবে, 0. ppm, যেটা 0.0 ppm থাকবে হলো নাইট্রাইট লেভেল, হোয়ার এজ দ্য নাইট্রেট লেভেল দ্যাট শুড বি ভ্যালু in 40 ppm। তো জানতে হবে দিস ইজ দ্য স্ট্যান্ডার্ড ভ্যালু ফর দ্য অ্যাকুরিয়াম। তাহলে when I use this type of the kit for the aquarium management, and if you see the ppm for the nitrate is more than 0, that's some default, that's some problems. So what should you use, what should the treatment, you must know. And if the nitrate is below 40, it's okay, but if it is the beyond the range of 40 ppm, what should you do? You must know about this one. Similar fashion for the ammonia level, this is 0.00 ppm থাকবে। এটা হলো তোমার হচ্ছে আমাদের যে যদি অ্যামোনিয়া লেভেল হয়। On the other hand, water hardness. So what do you mean by water hardness? Water hardness বোঝায় যে sometimes you feel if you just touch the water, you feel sometimes different types of, I mean that consistency you will see. Sometimes if you touch the water, you feel some slippery water, you feel some consistency water. I felt also, that's why. So it means that the water hardness, this regards to the precipitation of water with different types of mineral, that may be calcium, that may be phosphorus, magnesium, etc., etc. So this indicates the water hardness, either it is okay or not. You must monitoring the water hardness. However, about the phosphate also, the standard is below 0.2 ppm থাকবে, এবং সেটা যদি মোর দেন হয়ে যায়, তাহলে সেখানে it is the great source of the algae production. However, এখন if basically when you observe the water, you just see that is it transparent or cloudy. So this is very important. You must know about the density of the fish in the aquarium. Either it is maintained properly, or sometimes the over density, I mean that overcrowding. So if it is more than overcrowding here, that will be the problem for more oxygen, and here the more problems in terms of nitrate, nitrite, and ultimately the water should be more cloudy. So you must observe in your thinking that if you see the cloudy water in the aquarium, that should be the problem, and that should be the troubles in the aquarium. However, aquarium maintenance tips. We have some aquarium maintenance tips, routine maintenance guide. We have some aquarium water changes, testing aquarium water, and filter maintenance also. This is very important. Just you read it out, and I think that after read it out, and then you will able to I mean that the realize what are the actual scenario of the aquarium. So you will get a absolute idea or knowledge about the aquarium maintenance and management if it is the freshwater. So here, this is the weekly, monthly, and daily activities of the aquarium maintenance routine. Just You just read it out. Okay. So thank you. This is the first topics about the aquarium, as I mentioned earlier, that to know about the simple informations about the, oh, if you see any disease or if you see any problems, okay, you must see about your if it is disease or if any problems regards to the aquarium default management, you must steps by following the treatment. It is the part of I mean that the aquatic animal maybe treatment, aquatic animal health management is a chapter we have. Maybe the public health or medicine department they will conduct with the aquatic animal or fish animal health chapter. So thank you all about this is the one that I have tried to show you in this slide. So now come to contact about the biodiversity. About the biodiversity, just see biodiversity. Okay, this is this is our second topics about the biodiversity, threatened species and their conservation. So this is the also the another important topics for tonight. And as I mentioned in my very first class, about I mentioned I declared that I cleared already about the threatened species that I classified into different categories of the threatened species in the world that is given by the IUCN. Whatever. Uh, so let's talk about the topics that today we will try to share about the threatened species and the biodiversity in Bangladesh, as well as the conservation, breeding and breeding policies, and the factors that related to the breeding and reproduction in Bangladesh. আমরা চেষ্টা করব যে আসলে ডিসকাস করার জন্য threatened species already we were well known about the threatened species, the species that are going to be extinct অর্থাৎ near about to extinct সেটাকে বলা হয়, সেটা threatened species. And already I have given a clear concept in the first class about the classification of the threatened species into three categories, as I mentioned earlier. Number one, vulnerable. Number two, endangered species. And number three, critically endangered species. You are well known about this one because in exam it is very important. পরীক্ষায় থাকতে পারে, এটা তোমরা একটু দেখে নিও কোনটা হাই রিস্ক, কোনটা লো রিস্ক, কোনটা ভেরি হাই রিস্ক, এগুলো তোমরা জানো। এগুলো আমি আর আই এম নট জাস্ট গোয়িং টু রিপিট অ্যাগেন। So now come to context about the conservation and preservation. So this conservation and preservation, these are the two terms. So in exam, it is very important if I make a question that what is the basic difference between the conservation and preservation? It's very simple, very easy. Informations about the conservations and preservations. Preservation, the term that is used the protect the biodiversity, ah, in area or in a specified area, in a confined area, whatever it is. Just it implies the protection of the existing animals or birds or any individuals. It is the preservation, but it is not related with the increasing the number of the animals, birds, or any organisms or any individuals. But on the other hand, if I say the conservation is the strategy that deals with the not only the protecting of the animals, birds, or an individual, but it also deals with the increasing increasing of individuals or animals with a and this fashion with a sustainable rhythm. Sustainable rhythm. I mean that it is related with the number of animals or any organisms that either it is enhancing, either it is increasing. Oh, okay. If it is the number, it is decreasing in number, it is not a conservation. It is preservation. What you have, just you protect them. This is the preservation. But conservation, okay, you just protect and then you just enhancing the number of animals for the sustainability in future aspect or future extent. So this two term is very, very important. Maybe in exam it will be appeared. What is the basic difference between the conservation and preservation? I have some data in terms of conservation and preservation differences. Okay, if I take it, remember. Okay, I will show the differences between the conservation and preservation. I think maybe you are well. I mean that clear about the basic differences between the conservation and preservation. Whatever, if I say simply, what the importance of the conservation, a lot of conservation importance that we have in terms of biodiversity and wildlife management in Bangladesh aspect also, because we have a big opportunity, we have a big hub of biodiversity in Bangladesh, especially we say it is the Sundarban also. So we have a lot of advantages or a lot of importances of biodiversity. I mean that conservation of the biodiversity. Biodiversity preservation number one, ecosystem health. It is very important. Cultural and recreational value. So you may just I just highlights the points also, but you just read it out. And if I say the economic benefit, or very important for in terms of agriculture, fisheries, as well as forestry, and ensuring the continuous supply of the natural resources. It also includes to supply the resources from one country to another and one resource hub to another resource hub. Very important economic. And climate change the mitigation. Okay, you will know and you know that the sequestering of carbon dioxide, greenhouse gas. So it is very important to conserve our nature for our sustainability in the area. And research and innovation, very important for the research and the innovation aspect, uh, the conservation strategy. Also, the ethical and moral responsibility and interconnectedness with the human being also. Prevention of the species extinction is very important, as I mentioned about their protection of the extinct animal by doing the action of the conservation strategy. And these are the some biodiversity in Bangladesh. About we have the rich floral diversity, unique the faunal diversity, avian diversity, freshwater ecosystem, as well as the marine diversity we have. And these are the slide. Uh, I mean that. So now comes to context about the very important issues. If I see the pictures, what about the endangered species in Bangladesh? So these are the species name. But if I see the pictures, you will easily identify what are the endangered species in Bangladesh. White bellied heron. Once upon a time, these are the available in Bangladesh, but now this white bellied heron is now in endangered species in Bangladesh. And bentang also, you see here, it was in once upon a time, it was in Bangladesh once upon a time, but it is almost near about to. I don't see this one, but it is just endangered species, Asian elephant, and his spade here also, and Sumatran rhinoceros that was in Bangladesh, but now in maybe in National Zoo you will see one or two rhinoceros, and also six-legged tortoise you will see. These are the endangered species in Bangladesh, and the Bengal fox, and the rhesus macaw, and Asian golden cat, and the Ganges river dolphin. So these are the endangered species in Bangladesh, and we have more, say, the Bengal tiger. The most iconic animals in Bangladesh. It is just under the endangered, and the hog deer. Later we'll discuss about the deer in Bangladesh. We have more than four types of deer in Bangladesh, but the spotted deer, these are mostly available in Bangladesh, but the hog deer, it is just now endangered in Bangladesh. And the gaur also, you see, gaur also, it is endangered in Bangladesh. And the spoon wild sandpiper, uh, just you will see, sometimes you will see in the sea beach this type of birds you will see, but it is just endangered in Bangladesh. And red-headed vulture, it is just now endangered, the same phenomena condition. And oriental magpie robin, almost near about to endangered from Bangladesh. So these are the scenario about the endangered species in Bangladesh. So what should we do? What should the government do? What are the action that are going to be taken by the government authority? Is yet they have taken any considerations or any preventive actions for protecting, for conservation this type of endangered species from Bangladesh? Still the question remain, what about the real scenario in Bangladesh? What are our action? What are our approaches to protect or to conserve this type of species in Bangladesh? These are the question simply. So conservation status, if I say, conservation, as I mentioned earlier, conservation, just like to enhancing the number of existing animals or number individuals to increase any particular or any region. So we may classify the conservation in two categories. Number one, if I say this one, number one, in situ conservation. In situ conservation. What do you mean by in situ? So if you have interest to do the research in foreign countries, whatever, if you do this type of works or research in Bangladesh, still we have many resources in wildlife, in nature. You do the research in terms of conservation strategy. So you must know about the conservation types. So we may classify the conservation types in two categories. Number one, that is the in situ conservation. It must be performed outside of the lab. I mean that in it is not in house. It should be in outside. I mean the natural habitat. Say it may be done or it may be performed in the natural area. Say it should be the protective area, it should be the zoo, it should be, I say, safari park or any ecosystem, wildlife sanctuaries, etc., national park. Just you should the perform your activities. If you do the research, if you do the conservation strategy in just natural habitat with the free movement, it is called in situ conservation. On the other hand, if it is the ex situ conservation, that means you just always deals with the conservation strategy or conservation activities or conservation, how could I say, or conservation policy that should be performed in a, I mean that control environment. I mean that in house. Just if I do the action, if I do the performances, if I do the activities regards to the conservation strategy in a control house, I mean lab. Simply, you can say in just like say you are going to deals with the any particular species with their seed bank, with their seed bank. Okay, you just do the work in control house, control environment, control by culturing everything in a laboratory basis. That is the ex situ conservation. You may explain. So in exam, it is also important. What do you mean by the conservation and what are the types of conservation? How could you clarify this type of conservation strategy? Simply write it with your own words. Okay. So now very important information from our country context, especially. So what we are doing about the I mean that the to enhance our the improvement towards the wildlife conservation in Bangladesh. We have a lot of natural resources in Bangladesh, but due to the lack of the initiative, lack of actions, many number of species that are going to be extinct, already extinct, but near soon lot of species that we are going to lose. However, among them we have some success stories. Number one, ghorial conservation. We had a project. Okay, we had a project in Bangladesh, uh, that we got the I mean that the fruitful result about the ghorial conservations. Already a lot of ghorial already released from the project authorities, and it already enhanced different types of area. Basically, it is the coastal area in Bangladesh. And if I say about the iconic species in Bangladesh, that is the tiger. Royal Bengal tiger, one of the iconic species in the world, tiger. You know about the Chattogram Zoo and the breeding that was possible, you know. So did you hear the name of Raj and Puri maybe? Raj and Puri, Raj and Puri. They give birth Raj and Puri. So 14 number of cups that we got from here by a confined breeding. I mean that captive breeding. Okay. So it is possible in Bangladesh. The first time that was in the Chattogram Dulaza Safari Park, but now the success story is that one. So you may breed in-house captive breeding in Bangladesh. That is the example of the tiger breeding in Bangladesh. So that is the another milestone for Bangladesh to enhancing the number of the tiger. However, the Asian giant also, that was the another project in 2018 from Bangladesh, and we have already conserved a lot of Asian giant tortoise, and after the breeding, and we just reintroduce in the different areas in Bangladesh also, and rare crocodile breeding also that was possible, and already the number of the rare crocodile, and that now it is enhancing to different aspect for as a endangered species in Bangladesh so far. Giant forest tortoise also, that was the part of 2022. The research and blazers released the 10 captive bred Asian giant tortoise in Bangladesh, Chattogram Hill Tracks also. And the northern river terrapin, you know, some simple terrapins that is possible to breeding group of northern rivers terrapins and conservation station, and now it is just launched and released in the different areas. If I say what about the captive breeding, simply that the success story that I have mentioned earlier about the tiger, about the tortoise, about the gorilla, etc., etc. But everything is that was possible by the part of the captive breeding. So if I say what are the positive impact of the captive breeding, if I say simply the genetic consequences and the reproductive successes, survival in the world, and technological advancement, species conservation, genetic diversity. These are the positive, the captive breeding side, and the research opportunities that after possible by the captive breeding also, and the education and the awareness also. But if I say what is the negative, the impact of the captive breeding, so we have some negative impact of captive breeding. Number one, the genetic issues. Later slide we will discuss about the negative effect of the I mean that the captive breeding and behavioral changes. Okay, if you do the captive breeding in a consequence, I mean that sometimes it just goes off in breeding process or in breeding technique, say. you know about the inbreeding. So the performance and their behavior and their attitude, everything that is changeable. And sometimes we found different negative attitude, negative performance by the captive breeding. Later, we will discuss about details and the delayed adaptation. And that is the result of the inbreeding in a confined breeding or captive breeding. Whatever, what are the conservation aquatic animals? Also, as I mentioned about the aquatic is a part of the animal science, but it is very simple. But you know, the big aspect or big field that we have to do the work with the aquatic animals. So simple information just I put here. If you interest to know about the conservation of the aquatic animal, you may just read it out for your I mean that interest. It is not a mandatory task for you. If you are interested, you may just read it out because it is another part of the fisheries faculty, fisheries department. They will study more about this one. However, and what about the if I say the utilization of the zoos and the wildlife, the reserves, আমাদের বাংলাদেশ aspect utilization জুড়ে কি আছে captive breeding program we have the species reintroduction, advocacy and education, and we have the research and genetic management, and we have also the addressing challenges আমাদের রয়েছে, and utilization of the zoos যদি বলি conservation and mission of zoos, captive breeding process, role of zoos and aquatic aquarium, and concern and considerations and reproductive facilities in a zoo. We have a lot of utilization procedure, but either it is working well or either we have the division or we have the segment or we have the monitoring team yet. This is the question that should be arised. We have a lot of formalities, we have a lot of activities, we have a lot of natural resources, but either they are going well or something we are belongs to a lot of problems regarding to these issues. Whatever, now comes to the challenges and ethical consideration in captive breeding. As I mentioned earlier, genetic diversity. So if you do the captive breeding, so what about the genetic diversity? So is it okay? Is it maintain the genetic line? Is it perform well compared with the other wild animal in nature? Or what about the performance if it is stayed in confined or captive breeding policies? So lot of question that should be arised. So what are the performance? What about the attitude? What about the nature? Etc. etc. And also their potentiality. And either after captive breeding, what about the first one generation or second generation, their performance, everything that should be the genetic diversity. Either we can possible to widely spread about their genetic makeup. It is quite impossible because it is confined in area. So here the number of the dam or shire, it is very much limited in number. So that's why the genetic problems that belongs to the captive breeding in not only in Bangladesh, everywhere if you do this practice in captive area. An ethical concern. Basically, it is very important because ethically it is not ethical to apply the breeding strategy policy in blood group relation. I mean that in a parental or in a maternal relation, you just do the captive breeding. So ethically, it is not approval for enhancing the performance, enhancing the hybrid vigor, enhancing its the expression, gene expression, etc. Ethically, it is not a good concern for captive breeding. Whatever animal welfare, totally we know about the five freedom of animal welfare. Number one is the five freedom. I mean that free from hunger, free from thirsty, free from pain, free from any distress, and as well as free from fear, ah, etc., etc., free from disease. So we have five freedom of the animal welfare. So if you just keep it in the captive or confined area, so it is maintain the welfare of animals. So no, that is the question. What about the animal welfare if you do the captive breeding in a confined area? It is the human way, it is human way, or it is inhuman way. So that is the question. Whatever the sustainable practices. So the ethical captive breeding requires the sustainable practices to prevent the negative impact. So either we can do the sustainable practices, no, just we will see the first one or second one generation. So it takes time to observe for the long time, their long term observation. Either the generation after generation, either they are capable or not for their breeding. Either their performance is enhancing, or sometimes they are going to be sterile. Sometimes there are some default. Sometimes there belongs to different abnormalities that you can see if you do the captive breeding in a group in a confined area. So sustainable is the question here. Either it is okay or not. Either it will be sustained or not. That is also the problem regards to the and another challenges is that one, the distinguishing captive wildlife, the sanctuaries. So it is also the another problem. That distinction, the crucial, addressing the unique challenges associated with each space and resources also. So if you do the captive breeding in area, so is it okay by proper way, or are you okay by proper nutrients supply, proper space supply, or healthcare, everything? So is it okay? Is it possible to maintain everything in terms of space and resources, or another facility? So this is the another problem. And also the behavioral adaptation. Okay, we got the message that if we do the captive breeding, sometimes the generation, the late generation, second or third generation, they are not suitable to cope up with the any environment. I mean adaptation. So they are very poor performed in terms of adaptation. So that is the another problem in captive breeding problems. Very difficult to suit or cope up with any environment. And freedom and welfare, as I mentioned about their freedom, can we support, can we provide their freedom and their welfare, as I mentioned, welfare, long term care. Okay, if you do the captive breeding in area, so it takes time to provide them. If you have a tendency to cope up with it, I mean that it takes time to be sustained in any environment. That is the another problem. We are facing the challenges like that. And the balancing conservation and welfare also. And some ethical issues. We just facing a lot of problems for balancing and conservation in terms of welfare issues. And now come to points, come to contacts about the factors that related to the breeding and reproduction in captive breeding, as well as you can say in the wildlife in nature. You say in a sanctuary or wildlife in nature. What are the points that you will consider regards to the factors? Environmental condition is very important. Environmental conditions. Number two, habitat loss and fragmentation that are happening in Bangladesh is very badly happening. It is happening. Habitat loss and fragmentation. Genetic diversity, as I mentioned, a lot of issues, a lot of factors that is related to the wildlife. captive breeding system as well, and predation and competition. Okay, the days are very competitive, not only for the human being also, but as well as in terms of the wildlife. The days are going to be more competitive. I mean that for hunting and competition with different insects, competition with different small animals. So competition is the one factor for the breeding problems or breeding policy. Human disturbance also is happening in the world as well as in Bangladesh also. Food availability, that is the scarcity of food, is one of the main reasons for the problems regards to the breeding activities or breeding performances for the wildlife. And predation, you know about this one, predation, disease and disease and parasites also very important. Okay, if it is confined in system, okay, you can just observe and just you can provide the any preventive measures or medicine or vaccine. But if it is wild in nature, that is the problem. Diseases and parasites always that is associated with the breeding policy or breeding performance in nature, in field. And social structure also another problem for the breeding. And climate change, as I mentioned about the global impact, especially greenhouse gas, and and also we have some pollution in terms of water pollution, in terms of different food items pollution, food problems, habit quality, inbreeding. That is the very important issue. If you have a limited number of animals in a confined area or in a in-housed area, so that will be the more problem in inbreeding. That is happening in Bangladesh, especially for black Bengal goat in Bangladesh. Inbreeding, very, very highly it is happening. Inbreeding. That's why the performance of the offspring is poor compared to their, I mean, the parents, compared to their dam, compared to the shire. However, doe or buck. So that is the problem in breeding. Our expectation is that the performance of offspring should be higher compared with their father and mother. So if the performance is not good uh, compared to the parents, and it is not eligible for any types of farming, or if it is the zoo and wildlife also, it's very clear that is the problem in breeding. However, the human interference is also important, and invasive species. Invasive species, that means sometimes you see the unexpected species or unexpected animals that comes to forward. You never expect that, oh, in this area, here maybe no number of animals or no other animals without, I mean, that expect this one. No number of animals or no species that will be coming forwards. But sometimes you see unexpectedly you will get some information, you will get some picture, you will see some animals that is totally unexpected. So sometimes it is happening in different areas of wildlife conservation or biodiversity. This is the invasive species. I mean that unexpected species, when it comes forward, that is the problem. So this is another problem for the breeding and reproduction of the wildlife. And some behavioral aspect in captive breeding, just simply you will understand everything I say. Understanding the natural behaviors, reducing the stress, enhancing the reproductive successes, and behavioral adaptation, as I mentioned, social and environmental needs, natural environmental replication, and breeding behavioral activities, factors affecting the captive breeding successes, and phenotypic cost of captivity, and analyzing some captive breeding outcomes. So these are the genetic diversity and gene bank for breeding and for reproduction of the threatened species. So what should we do? basically. So already we have a knowledge about the conservation strategy, about the conservation status in Bangladesh, about their endangered status in Bangladesh. Already we are well known about this type of animals that we have mentioned, we share already. So what should we do for betterment of the wildlife conservation in Bangladesh? If I say importance of genetic diversity, so the focus should be given by the authority of the government in terms of the genetic diversity. Very for importantly, we should be give more focus on these types of the genetic diversity. Role of gene bank. Okay, so do we have any gene bank? Do we have any gene bank? Yet we have no gene bank in Bangladesh. In terms of you say it, if it is animal gene bank, oh, okay. If it is say plant gene bank, oh, okay. If it is the other organism gene bank, so do we have? No. So we have a chance to make a gene bank. That is the very crucial right now to conserve your nature, conserve your biodiversity, because each and every the country from the abroad, I say, they have some gene bank also. So this is very important. And the strategies for the gene bank use, what is the purpose of the gene bank? If we have and if we can establish what purposes we should use this type of wildlife management and genetics, germplasm conservation we need, and preserving the genetic diversity, mitigating the risks of extinction, research and reproduction, very important, and research, reproduction, as well as reintroduction also, that will come to this point. Not only research, okay, if you do the research, and what are the reproduction, I mean that the breeding policy and reintroduction is very important. In Bangladesh context, not yet we have a tendency about the reintroduction. I mean that in foreign countries they are doing the performance by reproduction policies. They just in a confined area, they do the performance by their mating of the same or dire, the same what I say dam or sire, and then they just release this one with the natural habitat. This is the reintroduction, but still we have no policies. Sometimes recently we have some project, and then we use this one, as I previously mentioned about the success story in Bangladesh. So we have a chance to do more research and do more. The reproduction strategy should be followed and advanced techniques compared with the others developed country. So we have the limited advanced technology that we have. So we should need more, give more focus on this type of techniques. AI and biodiversity research. We should establish a research center as well as the AI and biodiversity research center. If we have a AI and biodiversity research center, so we can contribute to our nation to conserve our natural resources in Bangladesh. Still, we have a chance to do more work and underutilize the potential. We are very much potential. We have resources, but we have the lackings in terms of work and work facilities also. So we can use our resources by using the potential activities or by establishing the potential protocol in Bangladesh. If we do better for our conservation of the nature, whatever it is, these are the genetic diversity and gene bank. If if we do the better job for our conservation of the natural resources, we can follow this type of points in context of Bangladesh. And pet trade and conservation concerns, what pet trade. Pet trade. What about the pet trade? Pet trade, that means sometimes we export, we import some animals from one area, not only one area, one country to another. So this is just like a pet trade, you can say. So pet trade and conservation concern, what about biodiversity impact? Sometimes I mean that if we feel that, oh, this type of animal we don't need to spread it in our natural habitat or natural conservations, but the government authority or sometimes the policy makers, they think that, oh, it is okay for Bangladesh context or environmental context, we can interchange, we can export, we can, just like say they are just like they are policy making units say. So this is the biodiversity impact in context of Bangladesh. And sometimes we need to supply the different types of, I mean that animals. If the other countries have a big wish to our context, let say example, Royal Bengal tiger, they have a good tendency to other countries. Oh, okay, I need Royal Bengal tiger. So these are going to be, I just put it in negative impact for our biodiversity in context of Bangladesh. If you belongs to, I say, the pet trade and the disease spread, oh, okay, it is the good sources for disease contamination from, I mean that animal to animal as well as to animal to human also, because they will contact this one. So it may spread out the different types of disease, and maybe disease transmitted from one country to another country also. Big chance we have. And some legislation problems we have, the problematic species sometimes we have. And this type of approaches to protect the wildlife and prevent the spreading of invasive species that I have mentioned, the new and unwanted the species. And also we have some problems regards to the pet trade, the conservation efforts, and the global impact also, as I mentioned in previously, and the international efforts also. So these are the problems about the pet trade and conservation concern, and you just read it out for your betterment. And aquatic animals health management, as I mentioned, this is the part of the fisheries department. If you keen to know, you may read it out, no problem. For your coming exam, it will not be appear. So these are the topics that today, with a very short time, I just try to finish in time, and later in next classes we know about more details about the endangered species. Yeah, endangered species in Bangladesh, especially, I say, especially, we'll know about the Royal Bengal tiger. We have to know about the crocodile scenario in Bangladesh. We will know about the deer scenario, and we will know about the, how could I say, about the some birds bibliography, uh, you know so these types of topics that we will discuss the later in next class. So these are the simple informations about the, as I mentioned earlier, about the freshwater aquarium, and very simple information about the sea animals and their classifications, and simple strategy to maintain the aquarium in management as a veterinarian. And the later part, we try to share about the endangered species, basically the endangered species in Bangladesh, and what about the challenges of the captive breeding in Bangladesh, and basically what are the, I mean that the action, or what are the consequences of to maintain our biodiversity in Bangladesh, etc. And finally, we discuss about the pet trade. So these are the simple but very concise information about our country context in Bangladesh. And the very first slide I mentioned about the threatened species that we have classified into three categories: uh, critically endangered, vulnerable, and endangered. We classified. So these are the very simple informations that I am trying to share with you. So I think this information is very important for your exam, and you should know about the real scenario in Bangladesh also. And oh, sorry, I forget. We shared about the success history of our wildlife conservation strategy. What are our successes in regards to our wildlife conservation? So these are the informations, and these are the topics that today. So do you have any question regarding these two chapter? Please let me know if you have any problem. Very firstly, I try to uh, complete this session. So, do you have any problem, please? Anybody? Thank you. কোনো question আছে কিনা? I have any question?
No, sir.
55 number of student. তোমরা কতজন টোটাল? 59 or 61?
59, sir.
Number of four students, they disappeared or they are missing. I don't know why.
57 জন পর্যন্ত ছিল, স্যার।
Hmm. Absent gular, so did you record which one absent?
জি স্যার, আছে।
Okay. And next class, which day that is more suitable for you for taking part in the next class?
স্যার আমরা তো ফ্রি আছি, আপনার সুবিধা মতো নিয়েন স্যার।
তাহলে মঙ্গলবার 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 রাতে
ঠিক আছে স্যার।
Tuesday, right?
জি স্যার।
Tuesday আমরা আলোচনা করব এবং সেখানে সবাইকে থাকতে বলবা ক্লাসে। এই যে কনসিকুয়েন্টলি কে কে নাই, কয়জন নাই? 55 জন, 57 জন ছিল। তাই 3 জন কারা নেই সেটা কিন্তু তুমি করবা, কেমন সাইফুল?
জি স্যার। স্যার, জি
হুম
স্যার।
হুম 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 এনিওয়ে, তোমাদের আর কোনো কিছু আছে? কোনো কোশ্চেন টোশ্চেন আছে কি? নাই। ওকে, থ্যাংক ইউ। নেক্সট ক্লাস that will be held Tuesday 9 p.m. Okay.
ওকে স্যার।
Okay, thank you. Good night.
ওকে, আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার।